Well, today the FBI released their tapes showing the spies.
Most of them spent decades blending in with American society.
The FBI revealing they busted an alleged Russian spy.
A long-term FBI investigation.
10 suspected sleeper spies.
They just seemed like a nice, quiet family.
When we think of spies, our minds often drift to the likes of James Bond, with high-speed car chases and gadgets so futuristic they almost defy reality. But the truth is, real-life espionage is far more subtle and often much scarier. Today, we're diving into some incredible real-life spy stories and actual footage captured in the United States. Number 10. Bag swap. Spies are often thought of as shadowy figures lurking in the dark, but in reality, their operations can be surprisingly mundane. Take the case of Christopher Metzos, better known by his true name, Pavel Kapustin, a Russian spy whose covert operation was caught on camera in New York City. His tactic of choice? A simple bag swap. It sounds almost laughably basic, but it was effective enough to keep him in the spy game until the FBI got involved. In the surveillance footage, Christopher is seen meeting with another man, believed to be a Russian official with diplomatic ties. The two exchange bags like casual commuters, blending seamlessly into the bustling city life. But these weren't just gym bags or briefcases full of office supplies. One of the bags likely contained classified US intelligence, while the other was stuffed with cash, a payment intended to fund further espionage efforts or to support other Russian operatives in the country. The beauty of this method lies in its simplicity. There's no need for elaborate handoffs or flashy tech when a subtle switch can do the job just as well. After all, in a crowded city like New York, who's going to notice a quick exchange between two men among the millions of people passing by? Unfortunately for Christopher, the FBI did notice. Hidden cameras captured the entire operation, and the agency was ready to move in. But Christopher was no amateur. By the time authorities closed in on him, he had already slipped away. Investigators discovered that he had fled to Cyprus, a popular safe haven for those evading international law enforcement, and from there, he likely returned to Russia. To this day, he remains at large, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions and a striking example of how spies operate in plain sight. Number 9. Train station exchange. Train stations are chaotic, bustling hubs filled with hurried travelers, loud announcements, and countless distractions, making them the perfect setting for a spy operation. In one of the FBI's most fascinating surveillance videos, Richard Murphy, a Russian spy operating under his American alias, was caught conducting a covert exchange at a New York City train station. The setting was ideal for secrecy, but the FBI was one step ahead, capturing the entire operation on camera. In the footage, Murphy is seen pacing nervously, scanning the station for any signs of danger. Dressed in a disguise to further obscure his identity, he moves purposefully through the crowded terminal. His eyes dart from one corner to another, ensuring no one is watching, or so he thinks. Moments later, he meets with another man, believed to be a Russian diplomat. The two exchange a package with a level of casualness that could fool even the most observant bystander. To the untrained eye, it might look like two friends swapping lunches or work documents, but in reality, the package likely contained classified intelligence that could compromise US security. The exchange was brief, lasting only a few seconds, but the implications were enormous. The train station offered the perfect cover for such a meeting. The constant flow of people provided anonymity, while the noise and movement masked any suspicious behavior. The stairwell where the handoff occurred was carefully chosen, partially hidden but not so isolated as to draw attention. It was a classic example of how spies use their environment to their advantage. Despite Murphy's careful planning, his efforts were no match for the FBI's surveillance team. Hidden cameras had been installed in advance, capturing every move he made. The footage would later be used as evidence to dismantle the spy network he was a part of. Murphy's case highlights the delicate balance spies must maintain, staying hidden while operating in plain sight. One wrong move, one overlooked detail can unravel years of careful planning. Number 8. Department Store Spy. When most of us think about secret agent operations, we picture hidden gadgets, elaborate disguises, and late-night rendezvous. The last place you'd expect to find international espionage is in a department store. Yet that's precisely where one of Russia's most notable operatives, Anna Chapman, carried out an undercover handoff. It sounds surreal. Shopping aisles filled with clothes and cosmetics serving as the backdrop to top-secret espionage. But it illustrates perfectly how spies often hide in the most ordinary places. In a surveillance footage released by the FBI, Chapman is seen walking through the store, casually browsing items on the shelves. Clad in everyday attire, she appears to be just another customer, blending seamlessly into the retail environment. Outside, an unidentified man, whom the FBI believes to be a Russian contact or diplomat, loiters near the entrance. At a glance, no one would suspect this was anything more than an everyday scene. A shopper leaving the store and meeting up with a friend, spouse, or colleague. But for intelligence agents, each subtle movement told a different story. Once Chapman finishes her errand inside, she and the man exchange quick words, and something discreetly changes hands. The FBI has never released full details about what exactly was passed between them. Speculation suggests it could have been a flash drive containing valuable data, envelopes stuffed with cash, or sensitive instructions for other undercover agents. Regardless, the entire meeting was over in a heartbeat, with neither party drawing the slightest attention from customers or staff. It's no surprise that Anna Chapman was adept at blending in. A striking figure with a confident demeanor, she quickly gained a circle of friends and acquaintances in the United States who described her as charming and business savvy. She portrayed herself as a real estate entrepreneur, throwing lavish parties and networking with influential people. Few suspected that beneath this veneer was a Russian national trained by one of the most notorious intelligence agencies in the world. Ultimately, the footage from this department store incident served as another nail in the coffin for Chapman's cover. Though she slipped through the FBI's grasp initially, the evidence against her continued to mount. It's a powerful reminder that espionage can lurk anywhere, even in the most mundane parts of daily life. Number 7. FBI Mole. Picture this scenario. An FBI agent, sworn to protect national security, secretly passes classified documents to the very country he's supposed to guard against. It sounds like the plot of a spy thriller, but that's exactly what happened with Robert Hanssen, one of the most notorious moles in American history. For over 2 decades, starting in 1979 and continuing until his arrest in 2001, Hanssen sold U.S. government secrets to the Soviet Union and later Russia in exchange for money and diamonds. His actions compromised countless intelligence operations, revealing some of America's most sensitive information and putting lives at risk. Hanssen's story is troubling, precisely because it highlights how vulnerable even top-tier security agencies can be. Unlike a foreign operative sneaking across borders, he was already on the inside. As an FBI agent, he had legitimate access to classified materials, making it tragically easy for him to slip those documents into the wrong hands. He was careful too, using dead drops in nondescript locations. He'd hide packages under bridges or bury them in quiet suburban parks, later collecting cash that his Russian handlers left for him. On multiple occasions, large sums of money and even sparkling diamonds were exchanged for the files he provided. For years, the FBI had no idea they had a mole in their midst. Hansen managed to maintain a double life, projecting the image of a dedicated agent during the day while secretly betraying his colleagues at night. He was well-liked, intelligent, and seemingly committed to the Bureau's mission. Yet each time he slipped sensitive data to Russian intelligence, he weakened the very institution he served. The tragedy is that his superiors and peers overlooked subtle warning signs, unusual bank activity, inconsistencies in his work habits, and private obsessions that might have hinted at a life fueled by illicit money. Eventually, a tip from someone close to the operation and careful internal investigation led the FBI to Hansen's trail. In February 2001, the Bureau set up a sting operation. Hansen planned to drop off confidential documents at a site in Virginia's Foxstone Park, expecting to pick up his payment as usual. What he encountered instead were the flashing lights of law enforcement. When the FBI closed in, Hansen reportedly uttered the now infamous words, "What took you so long?" indicating he knew it was only a matter of time before his double life came crashing down. Sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, Hansen never got to spend much of his ill-gotten fortune. His story serves as a stark reminder that sometimes the biggest threat to national security comes from within. It underscores the ultimate vulnerability of any system, the human factor. Even the most formidable institution can be undone by one individual's greed and deception. Number 6. Dead drop. In the world of espionage, sometimes the most effective techniques are the simplest. One classic tactic is the dead drop, a secret location where one operative can leave information or money for another to pick up later. This way, the two parties never have to meet in person, minimizing the risk of being caught together. It might sound straight out of a spy thriller, but real-life examples prove just how risky and ingenious these exchanges can be. According to FBI records, Russian spies operating in the United States frequently used dead drops. One such case involved an individual going by the alias Michael Zatoli. His real name, however, was Mikhail Kutzik. Working with his wife, he reportedly carried out covert tasks for years before finally being discovered by the FBI. In a piece of surveillance footage that later found its way into the public eye, you can see Zatoli digging up a small package buried in the ground, a textbook dead drop. Little did he know that the FBI had anticipated his move and placed a hidden camera in a nearby tree. This camera caught every moment of his retrieval. Another individual believed to have relied on dead drops was Mikhail Semenko, who was also recorded in an FBI sting operation. In one instance, an undercover agent posing as a fellow Russian operative offered him money, around $5,000, to deliver sensitive information via a secret drop site. Semenko, thinking he was engaging in yet another routine handoff, took the bait. The FBI had already staged the entire scenario. Their hidden cameras captured him in the act, giving the Bureau the evidence they needed to make an arrest. What's striking is just how ordinary these exchanges can appear to the untrained eye. A dead drop might occur under a bridge, behind a tree, or even in suburban woodlands. Typically, passers-by have no clue anything clandestine is happening. The operative simply walks up to the spot, rummages around briefly, and leaves once they've hidden or retrieved the package. No shady handshakes or trenchcoat trades are necessary, just a quick, mundane action that most people wouldn't look twice at. The effectiveness of dead drops boils down to anonymity. By avoiding face-to-face contact, spies reduce the chance of being directly linked to one another. However, when law enforcement hones in on the tactic, it can become a double-edged sword for operatives. Hidden cameras, sting operations, and advanced surveillance techniques can quickly unravel even the most carefully laid dead-drop plans, as happened with both Semenko and Zatoli. Number 5. Anna Chapman. When people talk about modern spies, Anna Chapman often tops the list of famous names. Born in the Soviet Union, Chapman was believed to be recruited by the KGB, or its post-Soviet successor, before moving to the United States in the early 2000s. Her story is a mesmerizing blend of glamour, espionage, and clever cover stories, making her one of the most captivating, real-life secret agents to ever operate on American soil. Chapman's American neighbors saw her as a driven real estate entrepreneur. She radiated confidence, throwing social events, making business connections, and even attracting media attention as a savvy young professional. Beneath that polished exterior, however, lay a sharply trained spy. According to investigators, her primary goal was to extract sensitive data and forward it to Moscow, all while appearing like a typical US resident chasing the American dream. Part of the mystique surrounding Chapman is the incriminating FBI footage later released to the public. In one clip, she's carefully handing over documents to what she believes is a Russian contact. In truth, it was an undercover FBI agent by the name of Roman. During the exchange, Roman convinces Chapman to supply a fake passport to another Russian operative, a move that would ultimately lead to her downfall. The operation culminated in her arrest, a dramatic conclusion to a covert life that many of her friends and even family had never suspected. One of the more chilling revelations came after Chapman's capture. Authorities claimed she was grooming her children, both born on US soil, to follow in her footsteps. Though the details remain hazy, it underscored just how deeply she had committed to the spy world. The narrative that her children might someday become sleeper agents added a new dimension of intrigue and concern to her case. Ultimately, Chapman evaded long-term incarceration through a spy swap, a classic Cold War-style exchange in which captured Russian operatives were traded for Americans held in Russia. In the blink of an eye, she was back on her home turf, where she became something of a celebrity. Russian media gave her a platform, and she capitalized on her notoriety, appearing on talk shows and even hosting television segments. Number 4. Covert meetings. Surveillance footage often captures moments so ordinary that, at first glance, you'd never think they involve espionage. But sometimes, seemingly innocent meetups are actually high-stakes rendezvous between undercover agents. Two prime examples, the cafe meeting and the New York meeting, show how Russian spies in the United States used everyday settings to discuss and exchange classified information under the radar. The cafe meeting centers on two individuals known by their aliases, Michael Zatoli and Richard Murphy. Their real names, Mikhail Kutzik and Vladimir Guriev, might seem more fitting for an espionage thriller, which is exactly what their lives turned out to be. In the footage, the pair sits at an unassuming cafe table, engaged in what appears to be normal small talk. To restaurant patrons, they're just two friends catching up over coffee. However, FBI investigators believe that hidden in this mundane conversation were coded references to spy activities. At one point, Zatoli hands Murphy a small item, possibly a storage device or a packet of documents. His swift, casual motion is designed to avoid drawing any attention, an art perfected through practice. The second instance, dubbed the New York meeting, unfolds in the heart of Columbus Circle in Manhattan. In grainy aerial surveillance video, you can see Murphy and Zatoli strolling through the busy plaza. They weave in and out of foot traffic, pausing periodically to exchange quick words. Observers might assume they're tourists or colleagues discussing work, but the FBI viewed it very differently. According to released accounts, the two operatives were reconfirming details of their missions, finalizing drop techniques, and verifying signals to ensure no mistakes. Pre-arranged signals, like adjusting a jacket or wiping one's face, could indicate it was safe to speak. Even as they walked among hundreds of oblivious New Yorkers, they carried out spy business in broad daylight. Eventually, both Zatoli, Kutzik, and Murphy, Guriev were arrested. Their seemingly innocent cafe talks and Manhattan strolls provided the proof prosecutors needed. It was a stark reminder that complacency on the part of the spies or the general public wouldn't last forever. The footage reveals a fascinating glimpse into the meticulous ways spies communicate and maintain cover, using the city as their cloak. For anyone who's ever sat in a busy cafe or walked through a crowded square, these cases might make you think twice. The person chatting quietly at the next table could be more than just a random passerby. They might be orchestrating secret missions with global implications, right there behind a latte. Number 3, spy bridge. Bridges in popular culture are a common backdrop for suspenseful face-offs and cryptic meetups. The idea of a spy bridge conjures images of late-night handovers in the mist, reminiscent of Cold War-era thrillers. Yet real-life espionage often proves that truth can be just as dramatic. Several spies, including the infamous FBI mole Robert Hansen and Russian operative Mikhail Semenko, used bridges as prime locations to carry out dead drops, trade secrets, and pass money without direct contact. The idea is surprisingly logical. A bridge offers just enough cover. People walking by might think you're gazing at the water or taking a picture. Meanwhile, you could be swapping flash drives or leaving behind a bundle of cash in a hidden crevice. Hansen, for instance, relied on secluded bridges near wooded areas. He'd leave sensitive documents, confident his handlers would retrieve them without raising suspicion. Before the FBI finally caught on, he managed to funnel damaging intelligence to the Soviet Union and later Russia for years. Semenko's story is equally intriguing. He was captured in surveillance footage as he accepted payment, roughly $5,000, from someone he believed was a fellow Russian spy. The other party was, in fact, an FBI undercover agent. Semenko's job? To carry out a dead drop of classified information, presumably under or near a bridge, where clandestine trades often occur. Unaware he was walking into a carefully orchestrated trap, he carried out each step with precision. He placed the package at the agreed-upon location, anticipating a future pickup. Little did he know that hidden cameras were rolling, and federal agents were closing in. Bridges as espionage hotspots might sound romantic or cinematic, but the reality is that they're a practical choice. For one, they provide multiple vantage points and escape routes. Spies can slip away into the throng of pedestrians, disappear in a nearby park, or hop onto a waiting vehicle. The traffic noise, footfalls, and general bustle can easily mask the quick shuffle of a package from one hand to another. If confronted, an operative can feign innocence, claiming they're there to take photos or enjoy the— Number 2. Spies caught in Russia. In a twist of fate that sounds straight out of a spy novel, several of the Russian agents apprehended in the United States actually got traded back to Moscow in exchange for American operatives detained in Russia. This intriguing spy swap highlighted how international espionage isn't a one-way street. Wherever there are secret missions and classified information, there's bound to be a reciprocal tug-of-war between nations. One of the more notable figures swept up in these exchanges was Michael Zatoli, whose real name turned out to be Mikhail Kutzik. For years, he was quietly living on American soil, posing as a normal citizen. According to FBI reports, he and his wife had been spying for Russian intelligence since the mid-2000s. Under various aliases, they meticulously gathered bits of sensitive information to pass back to their handlers. After the FBI caught Zatoli on camera digging up a dead drop in a public area, his double life crumbled. The footage clearly showed him retrieving a hidden package, damning proof of his clandestine activities. Then there's Richard Murphy, another one of these so-called ghosts among us. That, of course, wasn't his real name either. He was actually Vladimir Guriev, a Russian national deeply embedded in a suburban US neighborhood. He and Zatoli were videotaped in places like Brooklyn, New York, meeting to discuss espionage plans. In some recordings, they appear to discreetly exchange objects that could be anything from money to USB drives loaded with sensitive files. Their tactics were thorough: casual conversations in public spots, minimal direct contact, and frequent use of code words. Still, the FBI's long-running surveillance operation gathered enough evidence to expose them. When authorities finally closed in on these deep-cover operatives, it led to what can only be described as one of the most dramatic spy trades in recent history. Several Russian agents, including those arrested alongside Zatoli and Murphy, were swapped for Americans detained on espionage charges in Russia. The arrangement had flashbacks to Cold War-era intrigue, recalling images of officials meeting on misty bridges to exchange captured spies. At the end of it all, many of the Russian operatives landed back in Moscow, free from US custody. What makes this story particularly fascinating is how ordinary and even friendly these individuals seemed to neighbors and co-workers. Their identities were so convincingly crafted that few suspected they were operating under the directive of a foreign government. They went about everyday tasks, running errands, chatting with neighbors, and even hosting backyard barbecues, only to slip away occasionally and handle top-secret tasks. When the news broke, communities were stunned to learn that the mild-mannered couple next door was, in fact, part of a high-stakes espionage ring. Number 1. Chinese spy. When news broke about a Chinese spy operating in the San Francisco Bay Area, many locals could hardly believe it. Edward Pong, well known to some as a friendly tour guide, was unmasked by the FBI in 2018 for infiltrating American circles on behalf of China. At first glance, Pong seemed like an affable entrepreneur, guiding out-of-town visitors through California's iconic landscapes. In reality, he was part of a sophisticated network designed to siphon not just intel, but also potentially damaging secrets from US operations. The FBI's investigation into Pong revealed a methodical approach often deployed in modern espionage circles. Surveillance footage reportedly showed Pong taping $20,000 underneath a TV stand, money meant to facilitate the trade of sensitive information. Soon after, he would arrive at the same location to pick up a USB device he believed contained classified data. Unbeknownst to Pong, however, that piece of tech was planted by an undercover agent working for the FBI. The information on it was either completely fabricated or relatively harmless. The real purpose? Luring Pong into a trap to confirm his clandestine activities. One of the most surprising aspects of the case was how long Pong had been able to operate under the radar. For a period exceeding 3 years, he maintained his double life, regularly traveling overseas to deliver these precious digital parcels. All the while, he managed to keep up appearances as a typical neighbor and community member, greeting locals with friendly smiles without raising suspicion. The FBI, however, had placed an operative directly into Pong's inner circle, a double agent who fed him convincing but phony intel. By doing so, they had a front-row seat to Pong's entire espionage routine: the handoffs, secret gatherings, and coded communications. Local residents were floored by the revelation that someone they saw as a mere tour guide was, in fact, engaged in a high-stakes global intelligence game. Yet that's often the nature of espionage. Those who blend in best are the ones who get the farthest. Whether it's Russian sleepers adopting cover stories in sleepy American suburbs, or Chinese operatives posing as affable service providers, spies rely on normalcy to shield their true motives. Pong's eventual downfall came when the FBI decided they had gathered enough evidence to ensure an airtight case. By that point, he had accepted multiple USB drives with classified data, dutifully passing them on to his superiors in China. Each transmission further incriminated him, setting the stage for a conclusive arrest. When he was finally apprehended, it served as a stark reminder of the ever-present tug-of-war between nations over sensitive information. Thanks for watching another episode. While you are still here, make sure to click the video on your screen for more quality content.